Hey, welcome to the Simple Nutrition Podcast, a show that helps you learn practical and actual nutrition tips from an expert. I am your host, Leonila Campos, a registered dietitian with over 8 years of experience in the nutrition field. Hey, welcome back to another episode in the Simple Nutrition Insights Podcast. I am Leonila Campos, registered dietitian, and today I wanted to do kind of like a fun episode and just talk about like the latest wacky maybe nutrition trends that I'm hearing, I'm seeing most so on social media, TikTok specifically. So I wanted to do that just because I do get a lot of questions from my clients, or I see that often, on social media. Obviously, as a dietitian, I want to give my opinion, but oftentimes I just keep it just for the sake of keeping the peace, I guess. But I guess that's also making a disservice to the population, right? That maybe don't know the correct information. And so I decided to do the episode just for fun, right? And if you've heard of any other wacky nutrition trends, let me know so that way I can look into it and possibly do another episode. But one of the ones that I saw not long ago is the Ozempic, right? Which is oats, water, and lime juice, right? That essentially is similar to a medication, right? Ozempic. And so I looked into it. Obviously, a lot of people have tried it, and you see the comments, right? Now, one of the things that you have to understand here is that when something works, quote unquote, works for somebody, right? We really have to look at their nutrition history, right? Their food history as to why maybe that is working. So oats are just in general really healthy, right? Like they're just it's a whole grain, right? It's going to give you fiber, which is going to provide satiety, right? Because the fiber helps with satiety. And so you're not going to get as hungry, right? As opposed to eating something that is just a simple carbohydrate. But the other thing too, right? Like when someone makes these claims is, okay, is this person having a positive, let's say, for example, weight loss, right? They're having a weight loss. Is it because they're replacing the really high calorie breakfast, right? Or high sugary breakfast with something that is, oatmeal. And so obviously they are going to have that calorie restriction, right? And we're going to see that weight loss. Or is it because, if they're doing it in conjunction with the fasting, right? So they're not having that, again, the addition of calories. And so, that could be possible too. Or is it because they're adding the oats, which are adding, they're feeling more satiated. And so they're not eating as often, or they're not eating as many calories. And so again, that could also be the aspect of it, right? But why not just add oatmeal as part of a balanced breakfast, right? That is going to be probably more beneficial and is going to be healthier versus like, oh, let me drink, this oatmeal mix, right, for a short period of time. And maybe it might not even give benefits to another person, right? So here, I mean, obviously it's just a trend, right? It's just a wacky thing that someone came up with. And, there's that conflict of grains are bad, now grains are good, right? And I can see that a lot of people can be misled, or they can have this conflicted information, right? Someone said that oatmeal is not good, right? And now someone says that oatmeal is good. Like, what do I believe? And oatmeal as a whole grain, right, can be part of a balanced meal. And again, because of the soluble fiber, right, and just the fiber in general, and oatmeal can create satiety, right? And so it can be part of a balanced meal, but no as a wacky trend for weight loss, right? And so, yeah, definitely be careful of that for sure. You can absolutely add oats, right, or oatmeal as part of your balanced meals, right, your balanced breakfast, and that can provide those benefits, right? Can provide B vitamins, again, that fiber, which is great. We definitely need more fiber, and so, adding them as part of a balanced breakfast is perfectly fine. Another one that I saw, right, as I was doing my research is lettuce water, right, for better sleep. This is really interesting because even as the video that I was watching, right, this person is like, oh my gosh, this tastes horrible. You boil the lettuce water and then you drink it. And then in his video, he's like, oh, there's lots of critters here. And he still drank it. Anyway, that's just weird. But the disclaimer or the claim, right, is like, okay, drink some of this boiled lettuce water and it's going to help you sleep better, right? Which in the video, obviously, he says, yeah, I slept better, right? And it's a video, right? We don't know. There's so many questions that I have, right? Like, okay, is it because, you don't have a sleep routine? And so now that you're like filming this video and you're concentrating on like, okay, what is the effect of this water? And so you're more focused on that and more relaxed, that is actually helping you to go to sleep. Are there other factors, right? Is it because just having something warm, right, is relaxing you and helping you to feel more relaxed? That is essentially helping you to go to sleep, right? But the lettuce itself, there's not research that shows, right, that there is that positive effect of improved or better sleep when you drink it in water. There was a study done in mice, but it was the concentrated form of lettuce, right? Obviously, there's a higher amount there versus boiling lettuce in water. However, there are definitely ways to improve our sleep, right? If that is something that we really want to do, and that is adding magnesium foods, right? So think of your nuts, think of your seeds, right? And also adding our more fiber, right, to help improve just overall well-being. And so why not do that? That is going to help us help our health and our well-being, in many areas versus just like, oh, let me drink this horrible lettuce, boiled lettuce water, right, to help me sleep. Now, here's the other thing too, right? Aside from adding more high magnesium foods, like I mentioned, like your nuts and your seeds, you also have to look at what you do leading to your bedtime, right? And this is something that I talk to my clients a lot. I ask this question every single time I see them. And it's because our sleep is going to be affected by what we do leading to going to bed, right? So usually recommend, let's try not to use any technology, any blue light, at least 1 hour before we go to bed. If we can do 2 hours, even better, because we have to allow our bodies to really relax, but also that blue light doesn't allow the melatonin levels to increase, which are going to help us get ready for bed and stay asleep, right? And so really looking at that, and then creating more of a healthy bedtime routine, maybe some sleep hygiene, right, that we can do. Because when you think about using your let's take an example of using our phone, right, and we're in social media or we're reading the news and now we're really upset, right, or we are really excited. And so now that's not going to let us go to sleep, right, because we are really worked up. And so we have to now work on decompressing, right? Work on relaxing to be able to go to sleep and stay asleep. And so looking at those things too, right? Like really looking at the root cause as to why do I have sleep issues, right? Is it the quality of sleep? Is it the amount of sleep that I'm having, right? Or that, I'd rather stay up and I know that I have to get up, really early. So I'm sacrificing sleep, right? So obviously looking at that, because that's going to help you overall long term versus like doing something wacky like drinking lettuce water, right? So anyway, if it's more clinical, right, then absolutely speaking to your health professional about it, right? If you've tried different things, like I mentioned, trying to improve your sleep, and you've been doing that for a while, and you're like, I'm still struggling with my sleep, then definitely speaking to your healthcare provider, because we know that lack of sleep and having good quality sleep affects so many aspects in our health, right? From blood sugar regulation to hormonal balancing to repair and replenish our bodies, right? To our mood, to how we feel mentally and physically, right? So sleep plays a huge role in our overall well-being. And so absolutely looking more into that. So Yeah, there's that one. Now there's, what was the other one that I wanted to talk about too? Oh my goodness, I just forgot about it. I know that I saw one about the healthy Coke, right, where they mix LaCroix soda and balsamic vinegar, right? You know, I should try it and just do a video on it. There's no harm there, right? If you're someone that is drinks a lot of soda and like you're wanting to reduce that amount, right? Or maybe you're wanting to find an alternative for it, then giving it a try, right? I don't see that as a problem. But just calling it what it is, right? A drink. LaCroix mixed with balsamic vinegar versus like, oh, let's have this healthy Coke, right? I don't know. I see that as just misleading. But obviously there's so many other wacky trends out there, right? And the main thing that I suggest is like really looking at not the reliability of it, right? But like the purpose of it, like why is it that I want to try something wacky, right? Or why is it that I want to try that for whatever the case may be, right? And I think is really, if it's for a specific reason, right? For example, let's take weight loss, right? We know that a trick or a specific food is not going to lead specifically to long-term weight loss, right? We really have to look at overall the things that are happening and creating this long-term sustainable plan versus following something that is just, not essentially sustainable. I remember now. I also read something about adding lemon juice to your coffee, again, for the same reason for weight loss. That hasn't been proven scientifically, right? And then just adding, lemon water and, drinking that first thing in the morning, and that can lead to weight loss. Again, it hasn't been scientifically proven. Now, if it's helping with just staying hydrated better, which essentially is what our bodies need just in general, right? Because when we are dehydrated, that can lead to cravings, or that can lead to like us thinking that we're hungry, when in reality, we're actually thirsty or slightly dehydrated. And so in that sense, right, if drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning with lemon, do you like that and you enjoy that? That's perfectly fine, right? You're staying hydrated and that's absolutely okay, but not using it because, oh, I want to lose weight, right? If that is the case. Because, there's more to that. But, if you enjoy it, that's totally fine. Continue to do it. Same thing with the one that I saw about adding lemon juice to your coffee for that same reason, right? So there hasn't been research that proves that, and we know that weight loss is not only doing one thing, right? It encompasses so many other factors and so many other things that we have to consider. Another one that I saw too, right? And it is this is more common now, and I think it has always been, in the younger population, specifically in teens, and those are your energy drinks, right? I think I saw one about like Celsius, because of energy or whatever. And so we know that these energy drinks obviously have higher amounts of caffeine. They're also adding other ingredients like guarana or taurine, right? That are not beneficial specifically for children, right? Because it increases our heart rate. It is a stimulant, right? So it's going to increase our heart rate significantly. And so that can really affect kids. And so it's not only affecting their heart, their cardiovascular health, but it's also affecting their, hyperactivity, right? Their nervousness, if they're drinking it later in the day, right? Insomnia, they're having difficulty with sleep. And so it can really cause damage. And so instead of, having something like that, having a cup of coffee, right? Or really looking at, okay, why is it that I want to have our energy drink? Is it because I get sleep deprivation, or I'm having issues with quality of sleep? Focusing on that, right? Because once you fix that, and you're not going to need that energy drink, right? You're going to be well rested. And so maybe having just a cup of coffee is going to be enough. Now, this is not only for teens, but it's pretty much for anyone else, right? If you're wanting to reach for an energy drink, again, to get that extra energy, you really have to consider that, right? Because yes, you might have this energy drink and you're having this surge of energy, right? And you feel like, hey, let's go, right? Because the combination of those things are kicking in. But at the same time, right, your heart rate is increasing and your heart rate can stay high for a long period of time because that exhausts your heart, right? You're putting a lot of strain on your cardiovascular health. And so naturally your body's going to try to like calm you down because that is just too much for your body. And so if you do that on a consistent basis, right, imagine how much work your heart has to do, and that exhaustion, right? Because you're like just stimulating, that is just going to affect you long term. So I actually, when I started my career in nutrition, right, and I was doing my bachelor's in nutrition, I did some classes for different middle schools and high schools, and we talked about the effects of energy drinks. And so I had a teacher that, she told me a story about a middle school child or kid, student, that he wasn't feeling well, right? And so obviously as a teacher, you're monitoring them. And so the kid was just like off, right? And so obviously the teacher talked to him and he's like, okay, tell me what is happening. You're not looking so well. And he's like, my chest hurts, right? Like I'm having like chest pain. And so then she's like, well, why? Like, what do you drink? What do you eat? And so the kid told her, right, I had an energy drink and like I'm not feeling well. So obviously she had to call the ambulance, right? Because this is an emergency. She's telling that his chest is hurting. And so it was just so much stimulation, right, for this tiny body of this child. And so, I got a couple of times these stories, right, that teachers were seeing in kids that are having these energy drinks, and like these kids are getting super stimulated, and their heart rates are going like crazy because obviously their sensitivity to caffeine is it's usually higher, right? They're more sensitive to it versus an adult. So definitely keeping that in mind, right? Especially if you have kids, obviously peer pressure is huge in kids. And so, your children more than anyone else. I have 2 kids. And so I know if I keep those things on the back of my mind, I know I'm going to get to that point. And so anyway, but I think that's all that I wanted to talk about in this episode, right? I'm sure there's so many out there. I see them and I hear them often, right? And we really have to look at the evidence. We have to look at the research and, what it really is, what really is going to work long term. We know that there is not one single food that will give like specific results, right? It's actually the combination of things that we do, the combination of foods that we consume on a consistent basis, right? And so definitely don't get led by these influencers that are swearing that it works, right? Because we don't know the background story, and so I think that can also be dangerous. So definitely do your due diligence as to who you really trust and who you really can listen when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to your goals and fitness or whatever it is, because you don't want to do something that can, affect your health long term just because it's trendy or just because someone with tons of influence or tons of people are, that follow that person has said, right? And obviously they have that trust factor, but is it really correct? So definitely always do your due diligence. And if you're curious about something, right? And I do see that with my clients. Sometimes they're curious about something that they heard or something that they are seeing in social media. And they ask me, right? And I love that. They definitely ask me. And let's look at the research, right? Let's look at how true that is, right? And then we will come up with our own solution. But, definitely always do your due diligence. Okay, my friend, let me know what you think. If there is a wacky nutrition trend that you've seen or that you are, that someone has said, and you're like, hey, I want to know more about that. Let me know. and we can definitely look into it. I just wanted to do this one a super quick episode today, and hopefully it was different and fun. But all right, I will see you in another episode. You take care, stay safe and stay strong, and you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye for now. This podcast, the links and resources provided are for the purpose to educate only and are not a replacement for medical advice or nutrition therapy. I suggest you seek out the help of a trained professional to help you with your specific situation and needs.